You think you're tired because you work too much. You believe you're burned out because you haven't rested enough. You've been told that if you just manage your time better, if you just set boundaries, if you just prioritize yourself, everything will fall into place. That sounds logical. That sounds like the answer everyone gives you. Everyone from your therapist to your favorite podcast host, to the motivational accounts you follow at 2 in the morning, when you can't sleep, because your mind won't stop running through everything you didn't accomplish today. But that's exactly the error. The exhaustion you feel right now, the emptiness that doesn't go away no matter how many vacations you take, the sense that something fundamental is missing even when everything looks fine from the outside, none of that is caused by what you think it is. And the worst part, the part that nobody prepared you for, is that the solution you've been chasing, the one that promises relief through optimization and self-care and productivity systems, is actually deepening the problem. Every time you try to fix it the way you've been taught, you're reinforcing the exact structure that's breaking you. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. This type of content isn't common, and it helps the channel keep bringing deep reflections like this one. This isn't just another productivity video. This isn't another person telling you to wake up earlier, or journal more, or find your passion. This is about understanding why productivity itself, why the entire framework you've been operating within, might be the cage you can't see. Now let's talk about the model you've been living by. The one that says success comes from effort, that fulfillment comes from achievement, that peace comes from doing more, being more, proving more. This model is everywhere. It's the water you swim in. It's so pervasive that you don't even see it anymore. It's in the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the conversations you have with yourself at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep, because you're mentally reviewing everything you didn't finish today, everything you should have done better, everything that proves you're still not enough. If this model were true, if effort actually led to peace, if achievement actually filled the void, then the most successful people around you would be the most content. The ones who worked the hardest would be the ones sleeping best at night. The ones who climbed highest would feel the most grounded. The ones who checked every box, who did everything right, who followed the formula exactly, they would be the ones radiating calm and satisfaction. But they don't. You know this because you've seen it. You've watched people who have everything still fall apart. You've watched colleagues with impressive titles and beautiful homes describe their lives in terms of endurance, not enjoyment. You've watched yourself achieve goals that were supposed to change everything, only to find that nothing changed at all. The relief lasted maybe a day, maybe a week if you were lucky, and then the emptiness returned, exactly as it was before, sometimes even deeper, because now you don't even have the hope that achievement will fix it. This isn't a failure of willpower. This isn't about you not trying hard enough or not wanting it badly enough. This isn't about lacking discipline or commitment or drive. This is about something far more fundamental, something that operates beneath the level of conscious choice, something that no amount of discipline or motivation can override, because it exists in a different layer of human functioning entirely. Observe your own history for a moment, not the version you tell other people, not the highlight reel, the real one. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, most present, most real. Not the times you were most productive, not the times you impressed other people or got the most likes or made the most money. The times you actually felt okay inside your own skin. The times when being you didn't feel like a performance or a burden or a problem to solve. Now notice something. Those moments probably weren't the ones where you were pushing the hardest. They weren't the ones where you were optimizing and strategizing and hustling and grinding. They were quieter than that, simpler than that. Maybe it was a conversation where you felt truly seen, not for what you accomplished, but for who you were. Maybe it was a moment of safety you didn't have to earn, didn't have to justify, didn't have to maintain through constant performance. Maybe it was the feeling of belonging somewhere without having to prove your worth first, without having to be useful or impressive or entertaining. These weren't achievements, they were states of being. And here's what matters, here's the detail that changes everything. You didn't create them through effort. You didn't earn them through productivity. You experienced them through presence, through being in conditions where you could actually be human, instead of a productivity machine with consciousness. Now look at the times you felt most empty, most detached, most like you were going through the motions of a life that didn't feel like yours, most like you were watching yourself from the outside, performing a role in a play you never auditioned for. These were probably the times when you were doing everything right according to the model, working hard, staying busy, checking boxes, moving forward, making progress on paper, but something underneath was collapsing and you couldn't name it, so you just kept moving, hoping the feeling would pass, hoping that maybe the next achievement would be the one that finally made you feel real again. If this resonates with you, comment below where you're watching this from. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in this realization changes everything. Sometimes understanding that this isn't personal failure, but human architecture is what finally lets us stop fighting ourselves. Here's the inversion you need to understand, the one that Abraham Maslow saw decades before burnout became a cultural epidemic. It's not that you lack motivation, and that's why your life feels stuck. It's not that you're lazy or broken or insufficient. It's that you're trying to live at the wrong level of human need, and that's what's draining your motivation at the source. You're not failing at the top of the pyramid. You're suffocating because there's no foundation underneath you. And suffocation doesn't respond to motivational speeches. It responds to air. Abraham Maslow spent his entire professional life studying what makes human beings thrive, and what he discovered wasn't a list of productivity hacks or a formula for success or a set of habits to copy from high performers. He discovered something structural, something architectural. He found that human beings have a hierarchy of needs, and that trying to operate at a higher level while lower levels are unstable doesn't just fail. It creates a very specific kind of suffering, the kind that looks like laziness from the outside but feels like despair from the inside. The kind that looks like burnout but is actually something closer to structural collapse. The kind that no amount of rest fixes because rest isn't the missing piece. At the base of human needs are things you probably think you've already handled, things you were told to get over, things that seem too basic to still matter in adulthood. Safety, security, stability, the ability to exist without constant threat, without waiting for the other shoe to drop, without scanning every interaction for signs of danger. This isn't dramatic survival stuff. This is knowing you'll have a place to sleep next month. This is knowing you can afford to get sick. This is knowing that one mistake won't destroy everything you've built. This is the ground. This is the foundation. And if you don't have it, nothing else stabilizes. Then come belonging and love, the feeling that you matter to someone, not because you're useful, but because you exist, that you're not navigating existence completely alone, that if you disappeared, someone would notice, not because you stopped being productive, but because you stopped being there, that you have a place in the world that isn't conditional on your performance. This isn't romantic love necessarily. This is the felt sense of connection, of mattering, of being woven into something larger than yourself. Then comes esteem, the sense that you have value, that your presence means something, that you're not just tolerated but genuinely respected, not for what you do, for who you are. This is different from achievement. You can achieve everything and still feel worthless. Esteem is about internal stability. It's about knowing you're okay even when you fail, even when you're not performing, even when you're just existing. And only after all of that, only when those foundations are solid, does self-actualization become possible. The pursuit of meaning, the full expression of who you are, the life you imagine when you think about living fully, the purpose everyone keeps telling you to find. This is the top of the pyramid. This is where meaning lives, but you can't build it on nothing. You can't self-actualize your way out of feeling unsafe. You can't find your purpose when you're not sure you'll survive the month. But here's what happens in modern life. Here's the trap that almost everyone falls into without realizing it. You're told to skip the foundation. You're told that safety is something you earn through achievement, that belonging is something you get after you've proven yourself valuable enough. That love is a reward for being impressive. That esteem comes from accomplishment. So you start at the top. You start trying to build meaning and purpose and fulfillment on a foundation that doesn't exist. And then you wonder why everything feels so fragile, why one bad week can shatter your sense of self, why you can't seem to rest even when you're exhausted, why nothing you achieve actually makes you feel better. It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because you're trying to live in a structure that has no ground beneath it. You're trying to build a skyscraper on sand and wondering why it keeps sinking. Think about what you actually worry about on a daily basis. Not the surface worries, not the things you tell people when they ask how you're doing. The deep ones, the 3 a.m. thoughts. The ones that wake you up with your heart racing. The ones you don't say out loud because they seem too basic, too primitive, too embarrassing for someone who's supposed to have it together. If you're honest, many of them aren't about meaning or purpose. They're about safety. Will I have enough money? Will I be okay if something goes wrong? Can I trust the people around me? Do I belong anywhere? Or am I just floating through spaces where I'm tolerated but not truly wanted? Am I actually valued? Or am I just useful? What happens to me if I stop being useful? These aren't philosophical questions. These are survival questions. And you can't think your way out of survival questions. You can't optimize them away. You can't positive mindset your way past them. They operate at a level below thought. They live in your nervous system. They shape how you experience every single day, whether you're aware of them or not. Maslow saw this before the self-help industry exploded, before burnout became a buzzword, before everyone started talking about work-life balance as if balance were the issue. He saw that human beings don't fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they're trying to operate in conditions that make thriving impossible. You can't self-actualize your way out of feeling unsafe. You can't find your purpose when you don't feel like you belong anywhere. You can't build a meaningful life on top of a foundation that's constantly crumbling. The architecture doesn't allow it. And here's the part that nobody wants to hear, the part that contradicts everything you've been sold. The culture you live in is designed to keep you at the wrong level. It's designed to convince you that safety comes after success, that you'll feel secure once you've achieved enough, that belonging is something you earn by being impressive enough, valuable enough, productive enough. So you keep climbing, keep pushing, keep trying to reach the top, and the whole time the foundation is eroding beneath you. The whole time you're getting further from what you actually need. This isn't just your story. This is the story of an entire generation, maybe more than one. Look around at the people near you, the ones who seem fine on the surface, the ones with good jobs and nice apartments and active social media presences, the ones who look like they're winning. Now look closer. Notice how many of them are medicating just to function. Notice how many of them talk about exhaustion like it's a permanent state, like it's just how life is now. Notice how many of them describe their lives in terms of what they're surviving, not what they're experiencing. Notice how many of them have everything and feel nothing. This isn't a personal failure. This is a structural problem. This is what happens when an entire society is built on the assumption that you can skip levels, that you can force people to self-actualize before they feel safe, that you can demand purpose and meaning and passion from people who don't even know if they'll have housing next year, that you can extract peak performance from nervous systems that are in constant survival mode. And it's not new. Maslow wrote about this decades ago. He warned that a society built on achievement without safety, on status without belonging, on productivity without security, would create people who look successful but feel empty, people who accomplish everything and feel nothing, people who are exhausted, not because they worked too hard, but because they were working toward the wrong thing the entire time, because they were trying to build height without depth, because they were trying to live at an altitude their foundation couldn't support. You don't like this idea. It contradicts everything you were taught. You were taught that hard work pays off, that effort leads to reward, that if you just keep going, eventually you'll break through to the other side, where everything makes sense, and all this struggle will have been worth it. You were taught that success is a ladder, and you just have to climb high enough. But the human mind doesn't negotiate with reality. It doesn't care what you were taught. It doesn't care what you believe should work. It operates according to its own architecture. And that architecture requires foundation before height. It requires safety before meaning. It requires belonging before purpose. It requires esteem before self-actualization. This is why rest doesn't fix burnout. Because burnout isn't caused by too much work. It's caused by working at the wrong level of need. You can take a vacation and come back just as empty, because the vacation didn't address the foundation. It didn't make you feel safer. It didn't make you feel more connected. It didn't rebuild the structure underneath. It just gave you a temporary break from the exhaustion of trying to live without ground beneath you. And as soon as you came back, as soon as you stepped back into the same structure, the same demands, the same level mismatch, the exhaustion returned, exactly as it was. Maybe worse, because now you've used up your hope that rest would fix it. So what does this mean for you right now in this moment listening to this? It means the problem isn't what you thought it was. It means the solution isn't more effort or better optimization or stronger willpower or finding your passion. It means you might need to stop climbing and start building foundation. And that's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel like moving backward. It's going to feel like giving up on everything you've been working toward. It's going to feel like admitting defeat. But here's the truth that Maslow understood and that most people never learn. You can't skip levels. You can pretend to. You can perform at a higher level for a while. You can fake it. You can push through on adrenaline and caffeine and sheer determination. But eventually the absence of foundation catches up. Eventually the exhaustion becomes unbearable. Eventually the emptiness becomes so loud you can't ignore it anymore. Eventually you either collapse or you go back and build what you skipped. The emptiness you feel, the void that doesn't have a name, it's not a sign that you're failing. It's not evidence that you're broken or weak or insufficient. It's information. It's your system telling you that you're operating at the wrong altitude, that you're trying to breathe air that's too thin, that you need to come down to a level where you can actually survive before you try to thrive. And maybe that feels like failure. Maybe it feels like everything you were taught was a lie. But it's not failure. It's accuracy. It's finally seeing the map instead of just wandering lost. And maybe that means something different than you expected. Maybe it means prioritizing safety over achievement for a while. Maybe it means choosing connection over productivity. Maybe it means letting go of the image you've been building and focusing on the foundation you've been ignoring. Maybe it means admitting that you don't feel safe, that you don't feel like you belong, that you don't feel valued, and that those aren't moral failures, they're unmet needs. None of that is easy. None of that fits the narrative you've been sold. But it's real. And it works according to how human beings actually function, not according to how we wish they functioned. Maslow didn't give you a motivational formula. He gave you a map of human architecture. And maps don't care about your feelings. They don't care about what you wish were true. They just show you where you are and what's required to get where you want to go. If you're exhausted, if you're empty, if you're burned out in a way that rest doesn't fix, you're probably not at the level you think you are. You're probably trying to build meaning on top of unmet needs, and no amount of effort will make that stable. No amount of willpower will make that work. So the question isn't how do I work harder, or how do I optimize better, or how do I find my passion? The question is, what foundation am I missing? What level did I skip? What need have I been ignoring because I thought I was supposed to be past it by now? Because I thought adults don't need safety or belonging or basic security? Those are the questions that actually lead somewhere. Those are the questions that Maslow would ask. Not because he wanted to make you feel bad. Not because he wanted to add more work to your plate. But because he understood that clarity is the only real starting point. You can't fix what you won't see. And here's the last thing. The thing that matters most. This realization doesn't make everything better immediately. It doesn't erase the exhaustion or fill the void overnight. It doesn't give you a quick fix or a 5-step plan or a way to hack your way to fulfillment. But it does something more important. It changes what you're looking for. It shifts the target from more achievement to more foundation, from higher climbs to deeper roots, from doing more to being more stable. And that shift, that reorientation, is what makes sustainable life possible. Not a perfect life, not a life without struggle or pain or difficulty, but a life that doesn't require constant performance just to keep from collapsing. A life built on something real. You were never supposed to be this tired. You were never supposed to feel this empty while looking this successful. That's not how human beings are designed to function. That's not the natural state. But you are designed to need foundation. You are designed to require safety and belonging and genuine esteem before you can build anything that lasts. Maslow saw that. And once you see it too, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending that more effort is the answer. You can't go back to believing that the problem is you not trying hard enough. You have to go down before you can go up. You have to build base before you build height. You have to stop climbing and start grounding. That's not the message you wanted. That's not the inspiring call to action. That's not the thing that gets you excited to start fresh on Monday morning. But it's the one that's true, and in the end, truth is the only thing that actually helps. Truth is the only foundation that holds. If this content helped you see something that didn't make sense before, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. It helps this kind of reflection reach more people who need to hear it.